I'm Joy Vernon, and I'm the organizer for the Greater Seattle Tarot Meetup.
My name is John, and I'm the host and the organizer of the Denver Tarot Geeks.
This is a lot more experiential and practice-oriented than some of the other first Saturday groups that we've done. Most of these meditations that I do can be done seated. This particular one, we're doing the middle pillar exercise, and it can this is actually typically done standing, but it's totally fine to do it sitting. You can do it either way. And so just come into a comfortable seated meditation posture. And you can put your hands in your lap face up and your feet flat on the floor or on a book or a cushion or something if you need to. And typically I like to adjust the light for a low light situation when I'm doing a meditation, but of course I'm on Zoom, so I'm gonna have to not do that right now. Plus it involved turning off a whole bunch of lights. So take a couple deep breaths. And just become aware of your breathing. And let your breathing soften and deepen until you're breathing deep down into your belly. In this meditation, the middle pillar exercise, we'll be building the Sephiroth on the middle pillar of the tree of light in our aura. And we start with an exercise called the qabalistic cross. So imagine yourself standing tall, feet firm on the earth, and look up and see a star high up in the sky. And then lift your right hand, and you can actually do this physically, and reach up towards that star and see that it grows further and further away, but your body grows tall and tall and taller till you're standing on the earth as if it were just a beach ball under your feet. And then reach even further towards that star, grasp its light and pull it down to your forehead. Touch your forehead. We'll intone the word ate. Ate. And then touch your heart, the center of your chest. And imagine the energy going all the way down to your feet. And we'll intone the word Malkuth. Malkuth. Touch your right shoulder. Vegebura. Vegebura. Left shoulder. Vegejula. Vegejula. And back to center. Put your hands in prayer position in the center of the chest. Lay olam. Amen. Lay olam. Amen. And that roughly translates, Hebrew words that roughly translate into the ending of the Lord's Prayer, for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. And now return your hands to your lap and visualize that star again so far above your head. And this time, just see that ray of light coming down to your crown, and we'll vibrate the name Eheye. And we'll do it 4 times. Eheye. Feel the light growing brighter and brighter as you vibrate. Hey, hey. And feel that light now descend to your throat. And it forms kind of a bluish gray color. And I feel it like a warm, fuzzy scarf around my neck. And we'll vibrate the name Yud-He-Vav-He Elohim 4 times, with the light growing brighter with each vibration. Yud-He-Vav-He Elohim. Yud-He-Vav-He Elohim. Yud-He-Vav-He Elohim. Yud-He-Vav-He Elohim. See the light descend to the heart center, at the center of the chest. You're ever so slightly below, slightly heavier than you might consider the heart chakra to be. And this is a bright yellow sunny light that will grow brighter and brighter with each repetition of the name Yud-He-Vav-He Eloah Vidayat. 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 The light descends again, this time to the genital area, where it forms a violet ball of light. The god name is Shaddai El-Kai, and we'll vibrate that 4 times. Shaddai El-Kai, Shaddai El-Kai, Shaddai El-Kai, Shaddai El-Kai. And finally, the light descends all the way to your feet, which is the sephirah Malkuth on the tree of life, the bottom of the tree, grounded into the earth. And this ball of light actually encompasses your feet, but does sink slightly into the earth. And we can visualize it in the traditional colors of citrine, olive, russet, and black, or just black, if that's easier for you. But it is a very vibrant, glowing black. I like to think of patent leather shoes. We'll vibrate the God name Adonai Haaretz, the Lord of the earth. Adonai Haaretz, Adonai Haaretz, Adonai Haaretz, Adonai Haaretz. We'll now circulate the light, breathing it in from the star above into our crown, and then breathing it out through our heart. In through the crown, out through the heart, in through the crown, out through the heart, and then in through the heart, down the left side of the body to the feet. Out, breathe out as the light ascends the right-hand side of the body, returning to the heart, and breathe, and then hold that. At the heart, now breathe in as the light descends down the left. Hold at the feet. Breathe out as it ascends on the right. And hold at the heart. Breathe in as it descends on the left. Hold at the feet. Breathe out as it ascends on the right. And hold at the heart. And just allow that light to breathe in and out at the heart. And finally, we'll close with the qabalistic cross. Ate, Malkuth, Vegebura, Vegejula, Leolam, Amen. With the hand reaching up to the forehead. Ate. Center of the chest, visualizing the light descend to the feet. Malkuth. Right shoulder. Vegebura. Left shoulder. Vegejula. Heart center. Leolam, Amen. So that is the middle pillar exercise. Okay, I am gonna hand it off to John, I think.
And here I am. Hello. So, thank you, Joy. That was very nice. Very nice. It's been a long time since I've done that, and actually gives me a little bit of a flashback to my Catholic upbringing when the practice of crossing oneself goes through that whole, that same hand gesture.
Yeah, but it's opposite. The Western mystery tradition does it backwards.
I'm trying to remember last night, actually, whether it was right first or left first, since it's been, I'm a recovering Catholic. So we are going to be focusing on a sephirah of Malkuth. Malkuth is, of course, the lowest part of the tree. It is, depending on your perspective. From our perspective, it definitely, because we are in the world of Malkuth. We live in the physical, the manifested reality aspect of creation. And so it denotes all things tangible, physical. That would be our bodies, our immediate environment, all the things our senses tell us. And I think, what was it, in a lot of literature, at least, some of the literature I've been reading from, say, Gareth Knight and Robert Wang and Dion Fortune, is that all of them really do emphasize that it's very important when you approach Malkuth to remind yourself of its divine origins, and that it is already infused with that divine energy. No matter how gross that object might be, it still has that divine spark inside of it. It's I think one way to look at some of those qabalistic sephirah is also is that they are encased in one another. One perspective has Malkuth being the outside shell, the physical manifestation of it, while successive layers inward, as we go farther inward into ourselves, we go to the Yesod sheet just below that, Hod, Nesach, Tiferet, etc., until we get to the core, which would be Keter. Okay, so Malkuth is the sephirah at the very bottom, and rendered in the four colors that were mentioned previously: the citrine at the top, olive on the right, russet on the left, and black at the bottom.
And I think it's worth saying we did the exercise, which was the crown of the head, the throat, which is the quasi-sephirah da'at, which is not shown here, the heart, the genital area, and the feet. And so Keter, the crown, and Tiferet, which is harmony or beauty, Yesod, which is foundation. And we'll talk. Magical images primarily fit in with Yesod, so that's gonna, next time when we do Yesod, that's gonna get a lot of discussion. And then Malkuth is that the feet, the physical world, the world that we stand in, the world that we live in. It's the five senses, and so on and so forth.
I probably would want to just jump right into contemplating the imagery and the symbology that's associated with Malkuth. Some of those symbols were outlined on Joy's handout, so you'll be able to reference those a little later. But what we're going to do with these images is we're going to do an exercise. We've done this before in our previous groups, where it's the ratio exercise. It's an outline of the kind of exercise that we're going to be doing called the ratio. The entire exercise comprises of these 4 steps. First step is to read or observe. The second step to meditate. Third step to contemplate. And the 4th step to pray or to respond. So what we're going to be working with here is that 4th step of response. So while we show each of these images, we would just like you to just first, silently take in the image, let it come, let it really get absorbed into your consciousness. And then when you are ready, you can contribute either a single word or a short phrase that you feel is triggered in you. And you can do so at any time. It's not a discussion per se. This is more just when the moment takes you, just go ahead and say what it is you feel is touching in yourself there. Sometimes I'm not a very loquacious or articulate person. So I think I'll probably just go ahead and just go right into the images, and we're going to start with the actual colors. So just take a moment, look at this image, and when you are ready, we'll go ahead. We'll just do this each one for about maybe 2 minutes, and just go ahead and say what you see.
Medicine wheel.
Mountain.
The earth symbol with the 4 lines intersecting.
Earth, stem, leaf, and flower.
Nice. Somebody says peace in the chat.
Flora and fauna.
From the chat, elements of a whole. Intersection. Crossroad. The seasons.
Stability.
Equality. Guidance.
Oh, that's very good. Okay, now we'll go into the next one.
Cardinal cross.
Tibetan sand painting.
From the chat, structure. Strength, stability. Paths meeting.
Cardinal points.
Convergence and effervescence. Linking.
Axis mundi.
The magical circle with the 4 directions. Within and without.
Heaven and underworld.
Hmm.
Parts of the whole.
Okay, we're on the next.
Protection. Safety and inner light, centralized strength.
Manifestation.
A discoverable secret, the all-seeing eye.
Containment.
A channel.
Action.
Duality.
Okay, and then next.
Solidity. An altar. As above, so below.
Mm.
Stable, earth, grounded. Salt crystal.
Consecration.
Repetition.
Define. Concretization, crystallization. Flow.
Order.
Foundation.
Dissolution. Mystery. Wisdom in action. splendor, riddle, balance, capstone, the divine incarnate, light but Aladdin magic carpet vibes.
The higher and the lower self.
Guardian, union of energies, probably for the previous one.
delicious,
Inner sanctum, gateway portal,
Mm.
mystery, enlightenment, initiation, sacred temple, inner palace,
Hierophant.
subconscious, cleansing, hidden light, sub rosa, task to traverse, comfort, the path,
Underground journey.
sacred entry, structure,
High priestess.
Holy Spirit.
abundance, serenity,
Divine.
words veiled light, inner wisdom, sanctioning,
virgin,
Purity.
Immaculate Conception.
A crown inversed.
Hmm.
Demeter.
The Empress. Fruition, abundance manifested. Harvest, reward. Scarlet,
Fertility.
bread of life. Throne,
Earth was
royal nature.
Persephone.
Fertility, mysteries of fertility. Decay, the blood.
root,
Lifeblood, veil, appearances. Womanhood, fruitfulness wrought death.
Reluctant sovereignty.
Fruition, fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Compost,
Hmm.
choices that have unexpected consequences.
Like that.
Innocence, purity. Grounded, being.
Serene.
vibrancy, flowing, balance, simplicity, connection, the feminine manifest, elegance, grace, wisdom,
Okay. There we have it.
authority inherited through virtue is the last one coming in. How do you want to start with this?
I think we were gonna do just a back and forth type of meditation, just
Yeah.
brainstorming on what I guess Gareth Knight and Company would call a magical journey, or a map, a journey of it's a symbolic map of that journey towards that Malkuth.
Yeah. I'm going to be in a dialogue form.
Mm.
And we're making it up as we go along. So this is an experiment.
We haven't tried this before, so bear with us if it goes horribly awry, but I don't think it will.
I don't think so.
I'm picturing, just for starters, I'm just picturing a scene and where we are, a nice open field. Maybe there's trees in the distance, clusters of vegetation, mountains in the distance, a very spacious place, full of growth, plant life, wild animals scurrying around. It's a very peaceful place.
Yes, there are flowers there. Very beautiful. They catch your eye.
So I'm walking through this field very just casually, and I notice something over, like maybe just in the slight distance, a small, just modest pillar of two stones on top of one another. So I'm going to go over to that.
We walk up towards it, and it's about waist high, and kind of walk around it and look at it from all angles. Initially, the stones just look to be gray. And it does look fairly plain or rudimentary at first glance.
They appear to be just absolutely perfect cubes, although they are carved, it's very roughly. They're not polished. And as I approach this little altar, I notice there are 4 objects on the top of the pillar. They are the elemental weapons of the magician: the wand, the cup, the dagger, and the pentacle. They are arranged in a diamond pattern. Each of them are pointing toward the cardinal points that they're associated with.
I move around the altar so that I'm standing where the cup is, so looking towards the dagger. The pentacle is on my left hand and the wand is on my right hand. And I recognize that I am about to begin a ritual.
As I'm facing this look, I stand a little farther away from the altar as it starts to grow outwards. Each side is extending itself out into the cardinal points, east, west, north, and south. So that stone, those stones are elongating, stretching out into the horizon.
I realize that it has entirely encompassed me, as enormous as it is, and I am now within it. In the very center at the bottom, looking up and around me at the dimensions of this altar of the universe. And I wonder what, it's almost as if it were a portal, and I wonder where I have been transported to, what ritual plane of existence I have landed on.
And seeing, actually, I'm getting an urge to pick up the pentacle. Touch the pentacle, and I very gently take it up in both hands. And as I do this, a doorway appears on the side of the altar. It's an open doorway which leads with a staircase leading underground.
I walk down those stairs, touching the wall as I go, and feel just the ever so slight wetness of the stone as I descend.
It's quite dark in this passageway, but I can see a faint light ahead at the foot of the stairs. So I continue to walk towards that light.
And in my path, I come to a river that must be crossed before I can move forward towards that light. I look around unsure of how to proceed, but then I see a small wooden boat with a pole, and I believe I can get myself across with this.
I still have the pentacle in my hands. And I step into the boat, and I use the pole to push myself to the other side of the bank. On the other side, there's a gateway where the light is coming from, which looks and feels like the light from a blazing hearth. I go toward that gate with the pentacle in hand and very solemnly step through.
I need to get to the hearth. It feels like many of the stones around this area that I'm in, they often seem hot. And so I'm trying to pick a narrow path, stone by stone, trying to get myself towards that blazing hearth. At first, it seems easier, but the more I go, the more I have to be careful where I step. And sometimes it doesn't seem very easy to get through.
When I arrive at the hearth, I turn around to the opposite the hearth, and there is Persephone seated in her throne. I offer Persephone the pentacle.
She reaches down and takes it from me and holds it up to bless it. The flickering flames of the hearth cast this underground cavern in a warm light that extends into the cool shadows.
She blesses and consecrates the pentacle and returns it to my hands, which to the touch immediately feels different, feels vibrant, alive, but somehow a little lighter than it was before, but it's still very solid. And I hold it to my chest, and I feel that vibrancy, that same solid vibrancy in my body.
I feel grounded and rooted, as if I'm in exactly the right place, exactly where I need to be. I feel that my roots could grow deep into this earth and I might never leave, that I myself might become a tree. But even as I feel that deepening and quickening, I look up above and I am astonished at what I see.
I'm not sure I see that yet. What do you see,
Sorry.
Joy?
You may proceed in any manner you see fit.
I see the earth from the perspective of the underground. I see all the roots of the trees. I see the foundations of the mountains. I see the double equal armed cross that formed from our altar stretches not only on the surface of the earth, but beneath the surface of the earth as well. And Persephone beckons me that I must return to the surface and to take the energy that she has bestowed onto my pentacle with me. So I bid her thank you and continue to make my way back to the river where I've left the ferry boat.
And I pull my way across the river and get out on the other side.
I ascend the staircase back into the open world, which seems a bit more vibrant and colorful than it had been previously. I feel more part of where I am rather than simply being in a space. I become part of the environment. I feel the roots extending from my feet, reaching into the ground. And I feel the branches reaching up from my head into the sky.
I feel the life all around me, animals, the breeze, the birds. I feel the sun beaming down on me.
Okay, I'm back.
All right.
That was something else. I wasn't expecting all those things to come into play, but that was yeah, I was really there.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
So what we just did is basically, I mean, it is, kind of a meditation where it is based on using the creative imagination with employing these particular symbols in the process so that you use the symbols and the magical images to trigger certain centers of your consciousness that relate to those sephirah ideas. And then probably was maybe I'll mention real quick, and in the slideshow, the last few slides in there were AI generated. So we saw the picture of Demeter and Persephone, which people identified right away, which was pretty good, considering this is artificial intelligence doing this stuff. But the process of doing AI prompts is actually a little, not too dissimilar from working with magical images in our own organic consciousness. We're using a particular image or a particular prompt, in this case, to activate the centers of our consciousness that we want to work with. Likewise, with AI, you send a verbal description out there. It pulls from everything it knows, or every kind of piece of information that has been accumulated about that certain thing, and then it puts it together as best it can, which is a way that sometimes how our imaginations work.
And it's a really good metaphor for the very practice of work with magical images, because magical images, or at least what I guess what I should say is that there is a tradition of descriptions of things that are not illustrated with art. And people that have studied, the astrologers here that have studied the decans or read Austin's book, are familiar with that lineage. It goes back easily a couple thousand years, probably much longer. And the idea of writing the words of a description. And those have come down to us as the decanic images. They've come down there. There's a tradition in the Zohar that describes magical images on the tree, again, which are described in words. And my first reaction when I first came across magical images, which is quite a while ago, but Gareth Knight talks about it actually quite a bit in his Practical Guide to Kabbalistic Symbolism. And I might have even come across that stuff actually a little bit earlier when I was studying tarot cards, probably 20 years ago, and discovering that the Minor Arcana cards are associated with these decanic images. And of course, my first response is, well, I want to see the images. Why do you guys keep writing it down in words? And then I'll be online. And of course, after 2 decades of playing with it, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. And then I go online and somebody's like, I don't understand why nobody's putting these images up. Why does everybody keep describing them? And so I know that I'm not the only one to have that experience. And I believe that these images are intended to be visualized and not to be, even necessarily to be drawn, although I do think that that is definitely a process. And certainly many people have worked to try to capture these. I think just the way AI gives so much variety for every image that you enter in, every set of words you enter in to describe an image. I think our own imaginations do that. And we get, the more you work with the images, the more the more the image refines itself until it becomes right for you. So the magical image of Malkuth is a young woman crowned and throned. And John Michael Greer adds to that, and that's one of the things that's in the handout that I put up in the chat. He adds a young woman in a robe of mixed earth colors, her feet bare and her hair unbound, sitting on a throne of roughly shaped black stone. And so he doesn't use the crown, but I think other traditions do. And so just this idea of taking these words and trying to form pictures of them. And that's where the image John used for the Tarot Geeks, I used on the Greater Seattle Tarot Meetup, the image for today's meetup, I used a Greek statue of Persephone. And John used the AI and got that woman with the dark hair and that really beautiful gown that kind of flowed off to the side, and this really kind of solid two pillars and a kind of an elevated platform that she was sitting on. And there's the whole process becomes very personal. What I found when I first tried using AI to create magical images is that it was never right. I never liked it. I was like, no, that's not right. Her feet need to be like this. No, she's sitting crooked. Why are you doing this? Make her sit up straight. And of course, I could not find the words to yell at AI properly. And the more I tried to explain it in the words that I knew, the worse results I got. So I learned that I don't work well with AI, but I knew exactly in my head what I wanted. And it was a good experience to that degree, is that I was able to clarify in my own mind what I was seeing, even as I tried to correct, so to speak, what the AI was producing based on the exact same words that I had received. So that's what our practice is today, and that's what we're doing over the course of these 10 months is working with the symbols of the sephirah and then evolving into the visualization of the magical image itself in order to connect more deeply with these sephiroth, with each sephirah on the tree one at a time, really. John, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, I would just also reiterate the importance of being able to visualize the image in one's mind rather than contemplating the concrete image. I think you'd mentioned something that, and I think it's down to people like Knight and Butler saying the same thing, is that, if it's disconnected from the source, or at least, if it's not, connected in the source in terms of your own energy or whatnot, it tends to be a dead image. That it really, all you're doing pretty much is just kind of taking it in passively. If you were looking at a physical represented image like what we were showing you right here, but when you're able to actually picture it in the mind, that's actually using the right mental muscles in order for that kind of work to really succeed. And definitely, the clarity of the verbal description definitely has a bearing on that. And there are several different renderings, as you mentioned. Joy mentioned there's but for the magical images, they tend to be really fairly simple descriptions, maybe just one brief sentence. And some of what happens is it conjures up that archetypal image, that timeless transpersonal type of iconography that does tap into that spiritual lineage, but it can also be closed in one's own personal imagination. So it could take on aspects that probably you kind of fill the gaps in, which is going to probably always happen when anybody, you could say, okay, picture if I say imagine an orange sitting in a bowl. Now, everybody might think, okay, that's no problem, but not everyone's going to visualize the same type of orange in the same type of bowl in the same type of setting. They could be filling in the gaps like, okay, it's in a kitchen, or if it's in a living room, or maybe it's on the street someplace. It all depends on kind of like where you're just your own, what and what you how you access what you know intuitively. Whereas, that's more just not even kind of taking the logical approach. You're just triggering something, and you're triggering other pieces of information to come up with it.
I think there's something, the W. Butler book that we mentioned in the event description just has one little chapter on magical images, but it's dense, but it is full of great information. It's not long, but it takes a long time to read because it is very dense. And he talks about, I think there's even, I'm kind of combining kind of different philosophies and approaches, but the idea of meditation as angling or fishing for something, and it's kind of like we take this image almost as a hook that we send down into the subconscious, and it resonates with the archetype, and the archetype then kind of comes up as we visualize this. And again, because our own circumstances, our own personality, our own environment that we live in, our access to imagery or to stories or to experiences will all then create a very personal version or iteration of that archetype. And I think that almost in and of itself is very much the Malkuth symbolism, that double cube symbolism of as above, so below. The archetype is universal, it's unity, it's oneness. And then the vision that I see that other people might not see, that is going to be my worldly expression of that universal oneness. And so the process itself is, like I said, the treasure house of images is the Yesod, so we'll talk about this even more with that. But I think even the Malkuth itself very much symbolizes our practice here as well. So I wanted to, and John, do you have anything else, or should we go into doing a little bit of a visualization of the magical image of Malkuth, and maybe add some tarot cards into it?
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Okay, so I just want to take, I want to have my voice be as brief as possible and your experience to be as personal as possible. You've certainly seen the slideshow of the images. You've already had your personal response to that. We took you on our guided journey that was kind of the fusion of my imagination and John's imagination. And we've introduced the story of Persephone, that as that underground queen, and that she is an example of that archetype. And we've got the words themselves that that are used in the different traditions. And so I'm gonna figure out where I am here. And so Gareth Knight gives for the magical image, and I said this before, but I wanted to double check, a young woman crowned and throned. So a young woman crowned and throned is the main image. And as you work with that, you can add any of these other symbols that we've already discussed as belonging to Malkuth. The idea of the double cube, the idea of an altar or a temple, particularly an underground situation, the very element earth, the equal armed cross, the magical circle, a tree, any of those types of things can be added. And so I think I'm going to try a really simple kind of basic lead-in to help you get started visualizing this. And then, but then we're going to, I'll tell you when we'll bring the tarot cards in, the 4 tens. Awesome. Yeah. And we go till 11:30 our time, 20 more minutes. But absolutely anybody leave when you have to. It's totally fine. Hopefully this ends up being valuable enough that I can put it and useful enough that I can put it up on my YouTube and you can pick it up later. And if not, just come next month. You can do these practices on your own without a problem. I'll just end that. So as we start our visualization, anything you can do to get yourself into the space, like John started with an open field, which is very much that like out in nature, connected to the earth. That is a nice place to go with Malkuth. And seeing that stone pillar that is the altar. And that might be a really good place to start for yourself. You might want to start with the underground cavern. That's probably where I would start. But however you want to get there, I'm going to invite you now to come into a good meditation posture. Take a few breaths and know that you are going to meet the young woman crowned and throned. And I invite you to take a few breaths, concentrate on that concept, and perhaps ask, where should I go to meet this archetype? And see what happens. Look down, imagine yourself standing, look down at your feet and see where you are. Where are your feet? Look around. What's on either side of your feet? What's before? Perhaps where did you come from? What's behind? And then as you tune into this environment around yourself, is it indoors, outdoors, above ground, underground? Do you see, is it light or dark? Now start walking on this path. And as you walk, notice how the landscape around you changes and becomes even more closely aligned with the symbolism of Malkuth. And again, ask, where do I need to go to find the young woman crowned and throned? And follow the guidance that you're given, the thought that you have, the urge that you have, the way that is lit up. However you receive that information of where to go, follow that. And I'll just give you a minute to do that because it's a personal experience. And when you know that you are near her, what experience do you have? How do you know that she's around? What do you see first? How do you approach her? From what distance do you see her? And again, begin to move towards her, begin to approach her. And note, where is she? What is she wearing? What does her hair look like? What's on her head? What colors do you see? Where is she sitting? And get as close as feels right to you. Notice if she notices you. Does she speak to you? Build this image up as personal as you can, as connected as you can to the energies of Malkuth. Knowing that the double cube indicates as above, so below, and that this image of this young woman crowned and throned is illuminated entirely from that bright star we saw so early in this session today. You may ask her a question, talk to her, ask her for guidance, and see what she says. Maybe she points to something. Maybe you just hear an answer in your head or have a realization that your body feels is true. As you communicate with her or commune with her, begin to bring up the 4 related tarot cards. And for this, we'll start, and we're just working with the numbered cards. So we'll start with the 4 tens, the 10 of Wands. Show her the 10 of Wands and ask her what she knows about it, what she can tell you about it. Consider how it relates to the sephirah Malkuth and the symbolism that we've explored today. And from there, go to the 10 of Cups and show her the 10 of Cups. And what does she say about the 10 of Cups? Perhaps you both just look at it and smile. And then go to the 10 of Swords and share that with her. and see how she sheds light on this card for you. And then at last share the 10 of Pentacles with her. And when you've received the wisdom that you share with her, return back via, let her know that it's time to leave. Know that you can come anytime to speak with her. Bid her farewell. And then return along the path that you came, retracing your steps. And coming back to the place that you started. And looking down and seeing your feet at that starting point. And shifting back into your physical body where it is now positioned in the regular world, the world of awakeness. And resume, let your spiritual body re-enter your physical body so that you feel the chair that you're sitting on or the bed or couch that you're lying on. And feel yourself return to waking reality. And that is our meditation on the magical image of Malkuth.
Some of the visualizations I got were not too dissimilar from what I was getting when I was just dipping my toe into shamanic journeying, where you're encountering your totem animal, or your I guess your familiar or your spirit animal. And I guess, that's also one of the levels of magical imagery we find in this practice. We do have various types of magical images, the animate and the inanimate. And I think we've covered a little bit of both, but a lot of cases, like animals do act as guides, like at least initial guides toward your journey, like pointing you in the right direction. Whereas more human and anthropomorphic based symbols, are more higher levels of guidance. So, I mean, it also raises a good point too, is like when you do these meditations too, and oftentimes it's good to check it against tradition to see like, how accurate that magical imagery is when they come to you.
Did anybody feel sad or depressed, or have any kind of disappointing or difficult experience? And I'm saying this because every time I study Malkuth, I do get depressed. And so one of its titles is divine sorrow, or it's associated with divine sorrow. And Gareth Knight says it's perhaps best expressed in the German word Weltschmerz, which I think is world sorrow, or the sorrow of the world, or being sad about this condition of the world, or something like that. So I do want to bring that up because it is this entering at this point of the journey often is a very, you know, slightly overwhelming, slightly depressing point for some people, not for everybody, but for some people. And if you have that experience, it's legitimate. It's not wrong. And it's just the truth of what part of this whole process is about. I think that's our full practice for today. I will say one thing in response to what I just said, again on this handout, which of course we don't have time to go through the whole thing because there's so much, but part of the path text, and I have two different translations there. It's Malkuth causes an influence to emanate from Keter. Some people say descend from Keter, and or from the angel of Keter. There's various translations. And so just even if you have a great experience, great. If you have a sense of sadness, a lot of times that is this very fact that Malkuth itself opens up this possibility of such vastness and brings that influence of Keter down, and saying that I see spirit in this world. I experience spirit in the world around me. And it's the beginning of a long journey, but also it can be like, oh my God, this is a long journey. I just have to get started. And so just entering into this path causes that that influence to descend from the highest sephirah that is closest to the divine. I had with my tarot cards, when I talked to her, the 10 of Wands was me carrying in my burden that I carried with me. And then the 10 of Cups was her dissolving it and just saying, just put it down. I will take this. And just the ease of that and the flow of that descent, of that influence. And then the 10 of Swords was everything that lives dies. And to follow a spiritual path, you will sacrifice. And then the final 10 of Coins was, the world supports and the world binds. And so, there was more to it than that, but that it was so succinct the way she explained it. And I never thought of that 10 of Wands as carrying my burden to be dissolved in the flow of the 10 of Cups. And so I was very happy with that experience. And we are at time. I'm going to hand it back to John to see if he has anything that he wants to sum up with.
Maybe perhaps not sum up, but something to leave everyone with. Again, that we also have the magical images that are connected with the small cards themselves. So what I can do is I've got a handout to give you with some of the descriptions. Let me just pop that in here, and I'll share it on the screen just so you can get a brief look at it. So essentially, a lot of these descriptions have changed over time. There's at least about 6 different sources that we know of, or at least that we've come across, that describe these decanic images. Rather than overwhelm you with all of them, I just focused on just the ones that had the most common imagery about them. And I did provide some sample images of that, but of course, this is also a case of being able to visualize these images in your head and be working with that. So if you want to do something similar with these small cards, using these images, it might, we invite you to go ahead and experiment with this on your own. And as you can probably tell, I mean, some of these images don't necessarily have, they don't have an obvious connection with what we actually, interpret some of these cards as. So it'll be just an interesting exercise to see like where this image takes you. And if it does give you a new insight as to how to interpret a card when it comes up. Anyhow, that's that. So it should be in chat now, so everybody can download it.
When you say where this image takes you, like, do you mean like meeting that young woman? Like, would we meet these images and do a visualization? Is that what you mean?
I think that you probably may be able to incorporate the magical image of Malkuth into it as, you know, an anchor, per se, or something, an endpoint. But with here, I think we're looking at specific aspects of Malkuth, namely the Malkuth in the world, in the successive worlds. So 10 of Wands, for example, would be Malkuth of Atzilut in the archetypal world, and the Malkuth in Bria would be that in the creative world. So they would have a similar vibe to it, but a very different application. So when I say actually where it takes you, I mean, it's very much a case of like this being a magical journey that you take, like what we've just done, using the main magical image of Malkuth. So here you've been taking a journey, a very specialized journey.
And I just want to say thanks everybody for showing up. I hope you liked it. Please let us know.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your attendance and participation. That was a fresh experience for me, especially when we were doing the back and forth thing. I didn't know what was going to happen.
I know, me neither. And it was funny. It worked really well. What I was thinking when I looked up is I was feeling the light of Keter coming down through the top of I was in a cavern when I saw Persephone. I always am. And so when I looked up, I was seeing the light of Keter coming down. And when I said I looked up and was astonished at what I see, I was thinking, I just had that little thing in my head, Joy, you got to say what it is. You can't make John guess. And then I thought, well, it would be interesting to see what John sees.
Yeah,
I'm just curious to see if we both would see the same thing. And then you're like, I'm not seeing it, Joy. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
there was something in my mind too. It's like, when I'm underground, I'm underground. So, but what I did imagine at that moment, though, just like after that moment of just a few seconds of considering it, was that idea of being able to see through the sheath of the earth, and to be able to look at the earth from the perspective of the underground, and to be able to see how, and in a way, you could probably say, maybe that's an interpretation of the light of Keter penetrating through that layer of Malkuth to be able to illuminate it. So
they say that the tree has its roots in Keter. And so that's actually a really fascinating. I was imagining the light of Keter, and what you saw was the roots. It's like, whoa, that's kind of cool.
yeah, let's keep doing that.
Yeah.